We are here in Birmingham and I am joined by Birmingham's very own Matt Macklin. What's it like to be back home?
It's nice to go home after a show instead of back to a hotel, and then you got to drive back the next day. So the local shows are always good. It's good to see the big boxing, big time boxing, the big shows in Birmingham, and great to see a good crowd turn out. I mean, I know it wasn't sold out, but it was still a good crowd, healthy crowd here. Some good fights. I thought Brad Paul's deserved winner. You know, even before the knockdown, I thought he was cruising on the cards anyway. Actually, I think he probably could have got that stoppage several rounds beforehand. I think he rocked him in the fifth with the right hand. But I don't think he realised how much he hurt him. But look, the right man won.
Talk to us about that, how things can change. Nathan Healy was on this trajectory, getting that home fight stopped. You've seen the crowd that he brings out. The first fight went to a controversial draw. And look how it's completely changed with the and the new. We've got, Brad Paul's coming up from Newquay with his 200 fans and literally just upset that apple cart for Nathan.
That's sport, that's boxing, you know what I mean? That's why we love it. Anything can happen, but maybe Brad Paul's can put a run together now and build a following for himself. I think Heaney has a loyal following. I think they'll still follow him. I think they'll want to see him come back from this. And I'm sure he can do.
Talk to us, which was your favourite fight on the card? I've probably guessed which one it is, but what was the standout fight on this card for you tonight?
So I came in after the Owen Cooper fight, which I heard was a barn burner. So I'm gutted that I missed that one. I seen Solomon Dacre box. That was a good performance from. I thought he boxed well. I thought it was a good win. Put his shots together well. Also, Chantal Cameron, that was a good fight. That French girl was game. She stood her ground. She landed some good shots. I think Chantal was a bit too big and strong for her.
Talk about then, obviously, Simon Dacre, he got the stoppage. One of the main criticisms around him was that he boxed very well, but he never seems to up the gears and get the stoppage. But tonight, I think that was resonating with him, and he really put that to work and obviously showed that he can do that.
Yeah, he's a work in progress. He's still very much a prospect, do you know what I mean? So he's still finding himself and putting it all together, and I think so you'll see bits and pieces, and then as he matures and gets more experience, he'll start putting it together. And I thought tonight he was starting to put bits together.
What would you like to see next for him?
I think he's coming along at a nice pace. I don't think there's any rush. I think these are big guys. There's big to get where he is and where he might be in a year or two. There could be a huge difference. So you don't want to rush it and get him bumped off, knock his confidence. I think he's coming along at a nice pace. That was a decent fight for him. I think he'll do his confidence a lot of good. I think he'll do his profile a lot of good. Maybe stepping up another little bit the next one and just keep moving him.
Obviously, there's a mention about potentially fighting David Adelaide, which is the fight that should have been tonight, but obviously Adelaide pulled out due to injury. What would you say about that fight next?
Yeah, definitely, because it's risk reward, isn't it? It adds up for him. It's a step up for him, but one that I guess his team feels he's ready for. And if he wins it, it takes him to another level.
We've got to talk about your guys. Well, we've got to talk about Fraser Clark versus obviously Fabio Wardley. We know that it's been now put to purse bids. I think that date's gone. Have we got any news on what's happening with that and when we can expect that fight?
With Wardley and Clark?
Yeah, the rematch,
I'm hearing a few things, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say them at this point. But whenever it happens, I think it'll be as good, if not better, than the first one. Which that's a fair statement because the first one was a cracker. But I think they'll both improve a lot from that. So I think, and their styles will just gel. I think they could box each other 10 times, and we're always going to get a good fight.
But when that happens, obviously speaking as an ex-fighter yourself, is there a bit of risk? Because obviously, I get it, Fraser's got this pedigree, he's an Olympian, but going through such hard fights regularly, that will take a toll on him, even though obviously he's experienced, because that was a tough fight for both of them.
It will take its toll, but they're quite fresh. As pro boxing goes, both of them are fresh. All right, Fraser's got their long amateur career, but Wardley didn't. Wardley's really fresh, do you know what I mean? But that was a grueler. You don't want too many of them, because they do take a bit out of you. But at the same time, I think they've got they're big fights. They're good. They're big fights. They're big fights that they get a lot of profile from. I'm sure they're getting well paid. and the fights the fans want to see. They're well matched.
You've been, like I said, you've been in the game. You're one of the guys that I do look up to because you've got experience. You've seen like one network, two networks, fights going from TV to apps. I've got to ask, how do you find like the working across like all the platforms? We're hearing whispers now that potentially Queensbury's going to be jumping onto DAZN as well.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that, the evolution and how you find it to how it was to how it is now.
So,
I know it's a massive comparison to so many years of...
Look, I suppose life moves on and changes and evolves. Sports, television, everything moves on. You know, you remember the days of it was 4 channels. Yeah. I do, and I'm sure you do. You know, and it was, you know, then when Sky came around first, I remember we used to go around my aunt and uncles because they had Sky, we didn't. You know what I mean? To watch the big fights, and I was only a kid, but you know, and I remember there was people saying, that'll never work. You know what I mean? But it did. And of course, the apps come in, and you think, right now, will that ever work? Well, you know, maybe not today, but maybe 5 years from now, that's all we'll be watching. There's so many channels now. If you want to watch,
yeah, you're right.
Whatever you want to watch, there's a channel to watch it. You know what I mean? And I think people are getting used to that. And I suppose from an economic point, making it work, people have just, I don't know, they're finding a way to make it work. You know, there's been a massive investment of coming in boxing from, if you go back to say with the PBC coming, that was a hedge fund. So what I mean is, before that, a pay-per-view model was, if it's not generated, it's not generated. You get, you know, they'll know what the figures were and they give the guarantees, or they don't give they give a small guarantee and an upside, and then it's like, or the gamble's on the fighters or the promoters, and it's like that. You know, the money that's getting paid is out of what's been generated. But with the hedge fund in the PBC, that was money was being spent. That money wasn't being generated. That was someone using that money to buy a control into the game, if you know what I mean. And then you got the zone, they're trying to buy into the game. And then the Saudis are buying. So this is, from the fighters' point of view and people within boxing, it's fantastic because money's coming in. But I don't know. And I suppose you could relate this to like Abramovich coming in with Chelsea, and then other billionaires buying these clubs. I'm like, if they pulled out, could the sport, the business of the sport,
survive and evolve?
I don't know, like, you know. So prior to this kind of people coming with these massive investments, the sport was self-sufficient because it was what people were getting paid was what was actually being generated.
Right.
You know,
so true money rather than an investment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting that you put it like that. You know. But then when you talk about obviously the development of...
and I don't have all the answers of all that or anything. That's just something I've observed.
Yeah, but I respect it because obviously you've been around boxing as a fighter for a while, and obviously in the media industry, on the presenting side, so you would have seen it from...
Well, you see the change, you see the evolution, exactly.
So when you...
But I don't even know... So I think if you go back a few years, and you see when Eddie Hearn, Matchroom left and went over to DAZN, the sport's become, and not just over here, you look at the US and you look at DAZN over there and you look at Fox and you see the PBC and Al Heyman, and it's all these exclusive deals with promoters and different networks or platforms, and it's like the sport's become quite fragmented, and I think it's been diluted. But then you look at Saudi and there's collaboration there, Frank, Eddie, Bob, Arab. You know, it would be great if they could all collaborate and bring it under one umbrella, you know. But I don't know if one network's necessarily the way to do it, one broadcaster. I think more we need one governing body. Right.
All right, I'll take that. Take that. But 21st of September, you've got two guys on the Saudi card, on the Riyadh season, but in Wembley. Tyler Denny versus Hamza Shiraz. Obviously, you've commentated when Tyler's fought, how many times you've seen him rise and get where he is now. Your thoughts on that as an honest boxing pundit?
Well, I'm just delighted for Tyler Denny because, look, it's a hard fight for him with Hamza Shiraz.
We can't deny
hard
that.
Fight. But look, all his last 5 or 6 fights were meant to be hard fights for him. And he goes in there and wins it. He doesn't, pardon my French, but he doesn't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? He just goes in. No respect for any. Well, no, he has as a person, but you know what I mean. When the bell goes, he just goes for it, doesn't he? Backs himself, rolls the dice, and he's on a real roll. And you can't. How can you can't not want this kid to do well? Do you know? You can't not like the story, what he's done. might come to an end with Shiraz. I think this might be the one where the fairy tale ends. But I hope it doesn't. But it's a tough one for him.
Well, Joshua VS versus Willie Hutchinson. We saw the performance with Willie, with Craig Richards, who obviously you know as well from previously being with Matchroom. Talk to us about that fight.
Well, listen, I don't know, but Boatsi, when he turned pro and that, and even his first year, I thought, this guy's going all the way. You know what I mean? And he's still winning and all the rest of it, but it just hasn't happened as fast.
But why though?
I don't know. I think maybe he's an overthinker. He's been inactive. I don't know. He can fight. He can box. Do you know what I mean? He's just. I don't know. I don't know if it's a management thing. I know it's a mentality thing. It's just his performances are good. They're solid. But I just thought he would have been further along by now.
But if you say, for example, if you were managing him, Matt, what kind of like roadmap would you have there for someone like Joshua Boatsi?
I just think he's too inactive. He's far too inactive. I mean, I know everyone's inactive these days, but he's, he's right at the top of that kind of, he just doesn't box often enough. And I know sometimes injuries happen, it can't be helped, but I don't think that's the only issue.
Fair enough. I've got to ask then, we've got Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois, we saw put on a performance against Filip Hrgovic. Nice win for him. Obviously, he's claimed the IBF battle, so that's sort of like given to those guys as a Christmas present, early Christmas present from Alexander Usyk. That fight, and how do you think that goes?
Well, AJ's looked good in his last couple of fights. Looks sharp, looks like he's confident, looks happy. For me, the best AJ beats the best Daniel Dubois, but it's certainly not a given because Dubois really got no pressure on him. You know what I mean? The pressure's on AJ.
A couple of people have said, sorry to interrupt. Well, that's what I'm saying. A couple of people have said that they think AJ literally wipes him out within 3 rounds. Yeah. They're literally writing Dubois off. What do you think of that as an ex-fighter and seeing the both of them up close?
Well, look, they're both big guys. They're both bang. They both can be hurt and have been hurt. But look, I think AJ's the better fighter. I think AJ's in good form. I think his confidence is high at the minute. So for me, I'd pick AJ. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. It wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world to me if Dubois pulled it off. But that said, if I was a betting man, I'd be going in heavy with AJ. Do you know what I mean?
And finally then, I know you've got the Barnsley show that's coming up on August the 3rd. Have we got any schedule that's coming out with the shows that are going to be on Sky Sports Boxer? I know with potentially Ben Whittaker needs to be back out. We talk about activity.
Yeah.
We talk about him having, harder, tougher opponents.
Yeah.
Any news on what the schedule's looking like for the rest of the year?
Well, nothing concrete. It's just, lots of dates being thrown around and talked about. I suppose inquiries are being made, but no, I don't think anything's been nailed on as of now.
Okay. Well, we'll be patient with that one. Listen, I really appreciate your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.